Second half of July 1942. So far, over 1.5 million people have died in the Holocaust, a staggering number that is about to rise to new horrors as the deadliest 100-day period of the Holocaust begins. This is War Against Humanity, a sub-series of World War II in real time. I'm Spartacus Olsson. In the first 2 weeks of July, we saw how the US Army Air Force joined bombing operations in Europe. In Auschwitz, Nazi doctors started conducting gruesome sterilization experiments on women and girls. We also saw the continuation of the Holocaust of bullets, with mass murders in Rovno and Lvov claiming many thousands of lives. That continues in the last weeks of July, including a significant action in Minsk between July 28th and 31st. Approximately 30,000 Jewish citizens from Minsk and previously deported Jews from the Reich are killed. And the deportations are now picking up speed across occupied Europe. In France, between July 16th and 17th, 1942, 13,152 Jews, including 4,000 children, are rounded up and imprisoned by French police. They are detained in the Vélodrome d'Hiver sports grounds, after which they are taken to different transit camps. Many are expected to stay there for a longer time, since initial plans made in March are to not deport more than 6,000 French Jews to the east in 1942. One transport from the French transit camp of Drancy was already completed in March 1942, and 4 more departed in June, mainly as reprisals against labor action by communist and union workers, believed by the Nazis to be under Jewish instruction. The purpose of the French deportations was originally to use them as slave laborers. But with the shift to unilateral mass murder of this spring, not more than 10% of the overall deportees are to be classed in the fit-for-work group, and the rest will be killed on arrival. So when the 7th convoy from France, consisting of 1,000 French Jews, arrives in Auschwitz on July 19th, 375 are gassed upon arrival. By the end of July, a much larger percentage of new arrivals will be selected to be killed immediately, and the number of Jews that are to be deported widens. On July 1st, the Dutch transit camp of Westerbork begins operations. The first of many weekly deportation convoys leaves on July 15. The next one departs the following day on the 16th. They both arrive in Auschwitz-Birkenau on July 17th. 1,303 men and 697 women in total. Of them, 52 men and 397 women are gassed immediately. Their death is witnessed by none other than Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler, who is at Auschwitz to meet Camp Commandant Rudolf Höss. Himmler is reported to be relaxed and cheerful, even to enjoy some wine, which he rarely does. It is clear that he is content with his murder machine, which he is now ready to take to a new level of horror. Before his visit, Himmler had met with German Führer Adolf Hitler on the 11th and 12th. They meet again when Himmler returns to Berlin on July 18. We don't know exactly what they discuss, but on the 28th, Himmler writes to the SS main office. The occupied Eastern territories will become free of Jews. The Führer has laid on my shoulders the task of carrying out this very weighty order. On July 19th, Heinrich Himmler issues new orders to his police deputy in the Generalgouvernement in occupied Poland, SS Generalleutnant Friedrich Wilhelm Krüger. I herewith order that the resettlement of the entire Jewish population of the Generalgouvernement be carried out and completed by December 31st. Total cleansing is necessary and therefore to be carried out. Resettlement, of course, means extermination. Shortly after Himmler issues his directives, the speed of the murder campaign is dialed up. Between 350,000 and 400,000 Polish Jews and deportees from the Reich are still living in the ghetto of Warsaw, which is part of the Generalgouvernement. Tens of thousands have already perished in random shootings or have succumbed to illness, starvation, or exhaustion. But the surviving majority has remained in the ghetto. On July 22, the SS major in charge of the deportations, Hermann Höfle, informs the chairman of the Jewish Council of the Warsaw Ghetto that All Jews, irrespective of sex and age, with certain exceptions, will be deported to the east. By 4 p.m. today, a contingent of 6,000 people must be provided. On the same day, Polish railway servicemen receive a telegram informing them that a shuttle service will be set up to take 6,000 Jewish settlers from the Warsaw Ghetto to a nearby village. 6,000 daily, that is, 7 days a week. On the following day, that number is increased to 7,000. The ruse of them being deported or resettled is kept alive for as long as possible. Methods that we've seen in the Action T4 program, in mass execution, and in the other death factories used to expropriate valuables and clothes and to get Jews to obediently submit to deportation or resettlement. More often than not, children, women, and the elderly, everyone unsuitable for work, are violently removed from their houses and taken to the trains. Adolf Beermann witnesses it and recalls. On that very day, the first victims were the Jewish children, and I shall never forget the harrowing scenes and the blood-curdling incidents when the SS men most cruelly attacked children. Children roaming in the streets, took them by force to carts, and I remember fully those children were defending themselves. Even today, the cries and shrieking of those children are clear in my mind. "Mama, Mama!" This is what we heard. "Save us, mothers." They are crammed in roughly 60 cattle wagons to Malkinia, a village about 80 kilometers northeast of Warsaw. There, the train drivers are replaced by 2 German conductors who drive the last kilometers to a brand new facility. And so, starting July 23, 1942, the Jews of Warsaw are driven to the Treblinka extermination camp, the third and final of the extermination factories made purely for murder. Until mid-August, between 5,000 and 7,000 Jews are deported to Treblinka every day. Then the volume increases to 10 and then 12,000 a day. The slaughter trains will run for 7 weeks in what is called Großaktion Warschau, the large Warsaw operation. Upon arrival, a by now all too familiar scene plays itself out. Treblinka is a perfected version of Chełmno, Brzeszcz, and Sobibór. All the experiences with tricking victims into a calm and submissive state comes together here. The facility is camouflaged as an ordinary transit camp. A sign at the entrance states, "Jews of Warsaw, attention, you are in a transit camp, from which you will be sent to a labor camp. In order to avoid epidemics, you must present your clothing and belongings for immediate disinfection. Gold, money, foreign currency, and jewelry should be deposited with the cashiers in return for a receipt. They will be returned to you later when you present the receipt. Bodily cleanliness requires that everyone bathe before continuing the journey." SS and Ukrainian guards coerced the Jews to the extermination area. The victims are not given any time to acclimate or to study the surroundings. If they would see an awfully small camp surrounded by a barbed wire fence disguised as a dense forest. Women and children are separated from the men. Then both groups separately have to strip and yield their possessions. Then they are run naked through the tube into one of the 3 gas chambers. Survivor Abraham Goldfarb recalls the process. On the way to the gas chambers, on both sides of the fence stood Germans with dogs. The Germans beat the people with whips and iron bars so they would run and push to get into the showers quickly. The women's screams could be heard far off in other sections of the camps. The Germans urged the running victims on with yells of, "Faster, faster, the water's getting cold, and others have to use the showers too." 200 to 250 people, young and old, are crammed into one of the showers at one single moment. 2 Ukrainian men man the chambers, armed with an iron bar and a sword. They push people in to maximize efficiency. Once the cabinet's full and the victims are locked up, they start the engine and exhaust fumes begin to enter the shower cabin. Roughly 20 to 25 minutes later, everyone inside is dead. When the doors are opened, the bodies are still standing upright, still crammed together in the tight space, mangled in horrific positions with expressions of desperation and fear on their faces. Jewish prisoners are then tasked with removing the bodies from the chambers and take them to the burial pits further down the camp. The next 100 days of this operation is a source of controversy to this day. The numbers are so staggering that they defy belief, but they are, unfortunately, very, very real. They are the cold statistical output of a murder industry developed by trial and error for years that has now been perfected into a network of human abattoirs. The SS has continuously innovated. The neck shot to kill accurately was improved by Friedrich Jecken's sardine packing method to let the victims themselves take care of the first step in their own corpse disposal before they are even dead. The gas vans and gas chambers of the T4 euthanasia program was innovated by employing other gases like Rudolf Höss and Cyclone B, or larger, more motors to produce enough carbon monoxide faster. The gauntlet running of the early street pogroms led to the staged death marches of the Einsatzgruppen, which led to Christian Wirth's perfection of a system for arrival, triage, and gassing in stages now employed across the murder operations. Gas chambers were improved by better ventilation and supplementary doors to evacuate gases faster and get to the next batch of human victims. By summer of 1942, the kill capacity of this machine enables killing more than 15,000 human beings every day. Each workday of 8 hours, the SS can murder over 30 people every minute, divided over 3 extermination factories, Sobibor, Treblinka, and Belzec, in the gas chambers of the Auschwitz camp complex and in the pits of the Einsatzgruppen. The final cogwheel in the killing machinery is logistics, getting the trains running and running on time. That has been taken care of by Adolf Eichmann and his team. They've compiled lists from all across Europe, sent out the Gestapo, SS, and local police to round up anyone considered to be Jewish, Roma, or Sinti, according to the Nazi definition of racial identity. They are taken to transit camps or directly from the ghettos to be swiftly transported under conditions worse than cattle transports in Eichmann's trains to meet their death at the end stations of humanity. By any reckoning, the next 100 days will be the worst genocidal mass murder event in human history. In barely 3 months, 1,072,101 will have been murdered at Belzec, Sobibor, and Treblinka. 301,720 will have been shot by the Einsatzgruppen. 91,390 will have been gassed at Auschwitz. 1,465,211 ordinary human beings of all ages will be no more. Never forget.